Welcome to the Opera House Story Sessions. On this episode, we will feature Dave Bing.
I'm going to start with a tune I learned from a fiddle player named George Steele. He was a childhood friend of my dad's. When I first got interested in fiddle, which is a all-day story in itself, I asked my dad, "Do you know any fiddlers?" And he happened to think of his went to grade school with a fellow named George Steele, and he was from Wayne County and had moved out as a young man to Phoenix, Arizona, and said he played radio and played a square dance every night for like 30 years, had a half-hour spot, and he made his living doing that. And then, of course, in the 70s and 60s, the rock and roll wave kind of put the damper on that type of thing. Anyway, he came back to West Virginia, and that's when I met him. And it was like a period there where the interest in fiddle music was fading, and I was just loving what he did when I finally met him. But after 30 years of playing radio, I played guitar a little bit and had met a few other fiddlers. He would have me sit there, and we'd get a tune, be sitting just in his living room, and it was like you were on the radio. It'd be, "All right, Dave, is that guitar in tune? We're going to do one now. It's called na na na," and then and you're just like you're on the radio, just sitting in the living room. But he was a really good hoedown fiddler. That's where I got that basic shuffle from. Everything he played, he called it Georgia bow, which don't see that many people from Georgia doing it, but it was just that basic how you start a fiddle tune. And he would keep that going and just have a good hard driving feel. But I'll try one I learned off of him. Learned several, just the old standard, I hear them called chestnut tunes these days. This one he called a Tennessee Wagner. Tennessee Wagner. Another one of the early influences, of course, Frank George. My brothers and I learned quite a few tunes off of them. And he played every which style, and I really liked his easy-going tunes. I liked them all. But he, in his later life, my wife and I moved to Roane County in '84, and he was in that area, so we were neighbors for the last 35 years or so of his life, and got to visit him some, and just he was a unique person, just had so many stories and very sharp-minded. And actually a little story on him, had a friend from Switzerland, a girl originally from France and had lived in Switzerland for years. And I called Frank. I said, "Can I bring her over to visit? She's wanting to see some of the fiddlers around." he said, well, sure, bring her over. We took her over, and Frank came out with a sweatpants and a T-shirt that said "nasty old fart" on it, and he started talking a language I didn't know, had no idea, and Isabel looked at me and then looked at Frank, and she said something, and Frank said, "Oh, you speak High German," and then started talking again. So he had that kind of a mind to be able to, just a very intelligent fella, but a great fiddler, and just a good relaxed style, and he's like he would not get his fiddle and tune it up or anything. He'd bring the fiddle out on the case, get it, or in the case on the stage when he would play a big performance, and sit there and tune it, and what hadn't been played in, but still just play sweet as can be. Trying to think, one of his tunes, he had a really neat version of Liza Jane. I believe he called it Old Liza Jane. I'll try to get it, just a good, easy going version. Liza Jane. Liza Jane. We better get to the Hammons family. When I was a late teen, got to met Sherman when he was always around. We came first time we came to Pocahontas County was when I was 3 years old, and met Sherman. Then he was the old guy that came by the camp and would tell stories about the area, maybe sing a ballad, and would spend time visiting with my dad, and he would tell him all the good fishing holes and everything. And over the years, we got to know him more and more, but never knew he played music. He never mentioned banjo or never mentioned playing. And my dad was buying fish bait, this fishing warren. Sherman had a good little patch out back. You could go out and my dad went in the house and saw a banjo head, the case of a banjo sticking out from under the bed, and said, "Sherman's had a banjo?" And it was, and my dad told me about it and said, talk to Sherman, and he plays banjo, plays old-time music. And that's the first I'd ever heard that he played. Just knew him as the neat old guy. And I came up and visited him with my fiddle, and that was my first introduction to the really archaic old-time fiddle. I didn't have a banjo with me. He just played fiddle. And, of course, he's a legend on the banjo, too. But he would play these tunes that just like, my description would be not of this earth kind of sound. It just captured me immediately, and I dropped everything I was doing, and had a little camper, and I came up and stayed that first time month to a month and a half, and just would go over and record him. He'd take me over to his brother Burl Hammonds, and Burl and Maggie lived in the same house with 2 other sisters. And I'd have my little cassette recorder, and I'd record them and then run back out on the Williams River and try to figure out the tunes and go back and see what they were doing. And I got a few of them under my belt. But there was one instance, everybody, Sherman has played the same old tunes, everybody said. But one night we had got together and we stayed up half the night, and I played a tune called Pretty Little Dog that kind of changes from Clay County and kind of has changed over the years from Pretty Little Cat, Pretty Little Shoes to Pretty Little Dog. But when I learned it, it was Pretty Little Dog. And Sherman loved that tune. And I was playing it, and he had his banjo, and he said, "Now play that again." And I'd play it, and he would pick it out on banjo, more of a rhythmic thing than actually playing lead. And about every half hour, he said, "Play that Pretty Little Dog again." And I'd play it. And by the end of the night, we were playing it and had a pretty good version of it. So I got to teach Sherman Hammonds the song. I'm going to play a little bit of that Pretty Little Dog. It's a Clay County tune, but I guess it's a Pocahontas County tune now. Sherman and Burl both played a lot of the same tunes, of course, being brothers, and they had different takes on them. And I spent so much time with each of them. I got over the years kind of don't distinguish one version's or one fiddler's version from the other as far as those two go. And a little example here is I'm going to play Waynesboro that I actually learned originally from Burl. And then Sherman was one of the few people that would, now go up on that fine string and now go ahead and hit it a couple times and then come down. Where most of the other fiddlers that I spent time with, you just backed them up on guitar and went off and tried to remember what they were doing. But I'm going to play Waynesboro, and you'll hear a little bit of Burl and Sherman and Uncle Eden, the legendary Pocahontas County fiddler. Waynesboro. Hammons Family. So many fiddlers. When my brothers and I first started going out playing, there's actually people that go to festivals and play this music. Went to the West Virginia State Folk Festival and got to meet, that's where I first met Melvin Wine, the Central West Virginia fiddlers, Ernie Carpenter. And here come another big wave of tunes I never heard before, another style of music, and a lot of the same tunes. There's one called U Piney Mountain, which the U Pines used to grow all around here in Pocahontas County. And all of them played it. All of them had a little bit different take on it. Just so many great tunes, but so many fiddlers, we would be here all weekend, I think, if I tried to cover them all. But I'll do a little bit of Melvin Wine's, and I'm sure the Hammons Family will slip in there too, but U Piney Mountain. Forgot I wasn't in cross tuning there when went down to the bottom string. But yeah, that's one. You get into the Central West Virginia, and they got all these real cool, funky pauses in it and all. But Burl kind of played it straightforward like that, just run right on through it. And Melvin Wine for the most part too. When they played fairly common to each other. A better example, I think, of Melvin Wine's tune. He had a really cool version of the Horny Yo, which has a kind of a funny sound to the title, but a yo was a sheep, a Scottish word for it, and horny being a horn. Horny Yo by Melvin Wine. got to do one by Glenn Smith. He was a big, hard-driving fiddler. Moved up in the early 60s, moved from Galax area in Virginia to West Virginia. And him and his son had the Mountain State Pickers and played around for years. And then Glenn went around doing a lot of, went to Augusta and did a lot of different workshops and just presentations and all. But learned quite a few tunes off of him. And I remember we'd done a little festival up near his house, and I was there early, and just me and him standing there. He said, "Bing, do you ever hear anybody that fiddles quite like I do?" And I said, No, you got a special touch. You ever hear anybody feel like me, Glenn?" He said, "Yes." Okay. But he had a great tune. And he would play, like these other guys, a lot of different styles from the Galax area and the West Virginia area. And then he listened to recordings. He'd play the Kenny Baker things, just takes on them. But here's one of my favorites. It was kind of a bluesy-like feel. He called it a Roast for Polly.